Yeah. Oh, you know what? You could probably get really cheap because they did not sell all that well. Like, I bet you could find Sai and Hiro from Hitomari's sketch.
Oh, that would be so sick. Like give give like Hero of the Flash, the giant rocket launcher. Yeah, let's go.
And and those are the ones that come with the head to make the other characters.
Right. So I'll probably just get two of them.
Yeah.
Now, where is?
Like, go ahead, go on any like comic book store that or place that's. I bet you they still have one of those.
Is this one?
I would say get pre-order Mika and Rika, but you don't know Cinderella Girls as well.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Cinderella Girls. I
Yeah.
would get from Cinderella Girls is Anzu.
Anzu. Yeah, they did do an Anzu Figma, but it was a Wonderfest exclusive.
Like, come on.
Well, that was before the anime. That's why. Yeah. Wish they did a Kaneko.
That'd be nice too. I'd get a Kaneko.
Yeah. Trying to think of other series. I mean that they've. I don't know. The thing about comic book stores and anime stores is sometimes you'll find stuff that's like a couple of years old that just has. So
like that virtual on figure I got a while back there. It's from that same store I'm talking about, as a matter of fact.
Mm. So the only thing is Figma from like 2014 onward compared to the previous have the ball type of wrist versus the peg. Yeah. Okay. I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Here's the record button. VZ, say something real quick so I can get these bubbles calibrated.
Oxenfree.
Okay, let me turn myself up a little bit there. That's about good. Okay, ready in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to NTR Radio. I'm Tom Forcer Anubis.
And I'm VZ Mark II, and I'm mad.
VZ's mad somehow. K-Gods is having computer trouble. Apparently, the forces of Cthulhu that we fight on a bi-weekly basis now have tech support.
I just imagining all these oh god, what's the author of
P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, I'm just imagining all of the Lovecraftian monsters just with like rows of computers. Just
all these poor tentacle beasts hunched over keyboards and cubicles trying to hack NTR Radio.
How can we take down NTR Radio this week? We give K-Gods computer troubles. That's it. Or we throw in a thunderstorm that grows, or a flood VZ's way, or the microphone doesn't work for Time of Force Anubis.
Yeah, we'll knock out Time of Force Anubis's recording computer, have them spend multiple hundreds of dollars buying new equipment.
Yes. So this is a special episode because of something recent that I read that I just really
record yesterday, and two because something got VZ mad, and we're not gonna take that chance of missing that opportunity.
Yeah, but before we start, I want to show off something that I got late last week.
And I'm gonna show off a couple things that I got.
This is from Cinderella Girls. No surprise there.
Naturally.
Azuki Nendo, right?
Ooh.
All right. She is very normal, like just as a character. Like that's her whole thing. Is just
Remarkably average.
yeah, that's her whole thing. Is just she's like of the main three characters, and because they each the thing that like Cinderella Girls has is they're broken up by character, like personality. You have
Right.
cute, cool, and passion, and she's of the cute category. And even for like that's the thing about the main three is they're very average for each of their character types. She's very much in that Dere character type that I like. Yeah, I already have the Figma of her, but I just really wanted her. I actually bought it from a store that I never did from. Tokyo Otaku Mode.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that store.
Yeah, they're pretty good deal. They had it for $36, but you get like $5 off for you get $5 off and free shipping for first time buyers. So I basically got it for like 31.
Anyway.
I think it's good. Yeah. All right. So let's see what you got. Yes. That's gonna be great.
If you go on Yashike, you'll find hey, Cube the Third's in the RC. If you go on Yashike, you'll find an article where I previewed this Figma that's coming out. So, like a Figma Time Enforcer, which is really pumped for, so it's got to be something really weird or fully decked out military gear, which is the second option. So, because I can't wait for that to come out in October, I went out and bought 9 of these little armory accessories. Okay, I got the M4A1, I got the P226 and 228 pistol, I got the Remington 870, the FN M240 Bravo, M82 sniper rifle, the Mark 18 M4 commando rifle, the M202 flash rocket launcher, and the M1911A1 pistol.
Nice.
So I have 9 of those. I have 1 Figma, so I'm going to have to get more Figmas.
Yes, you do.
Basically, what I did was created more expenses for myself deliberately.
Yes, I'm giving ideas as what Figma to get for.
We were talking about that during the pre-show. Speaking of more expenses, I finally took my own advice and bought more shelves. You know how I'm always saying that the solution is not buy less stuff, it's buy more shelves? Well, I bought shelves. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can move this camera without destroying it. Up there, it's the new shelf.
Nice. Oh, I saw something with Frilly at the very far right.
Yeah, that was that one made figure that I got at Anime Boston.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so I guess
what's VZ pissed about?
Okay. The current Answer Man, Justin Savakis. He posted the question went like this that he got. Why does why is how come animation in the West, it started off with, how come animation in the West isn't for adults? How come it's only a children's thing? And how come it isn't like in Japan? And so his answer was something about, the normal, like, okay, you have 3 tiers in Japan of animation. You have the family stuff and the mainstream stuff like One Piece and Naruto, and you have the stuff that, meant for merchandise like Pokemon and all that. But then the third thing and this is the thing that got me annoyed, was, he goes off about the late night anime and how that's for otaku, and this is the part that got me. Apparently to him, they're only, you see, to him it only seems like one that it's super neat, that this stuff is super niche, that otaku anime is like super niche, and otaku um don't enjoy their hobbies openly, and that also there's only 100,000 fans of the stuff there. I'm gonna read this whole thing, the whole thing that he wrote for this part, okay? Because I have to put in context. All right. And then you have the other stuff, the stuff made for hardcore fans. The vast majority of shows that we spend all our time here on ANN covering. These TV shows air in the wee hours in the morning. TV stations air them because the anime producers pay them to. They're like their infomercials. They're aimed at a very small audience. These fans buy merchandise, soundtracks, expensive DVDs, and Blu-rays. They follow voice actors. They attend events. It's estimated that there are only a few hundred thousand of these fans in Japan. These shows are absolutely not mainstream. In fact, if you ask a random Japanese person on the street about them, nearly all of them would have no idea what you're talking about. Japanese otaku do not generally enjoy their hobbies openly. Most of them quietly obsess over their favorite shows and characters and voice actors at home, and with their own subset of like-minded friends, either in small groups or online. Many otaku are harshly judged for being anime fans and peers by peers and coworkers. There have been lots of tabloid TV shows about otaku, and due to the handful of ugly incidents involving offenders that were into anime and eroge, many people think that the whole scene is something to be ashamed of. Wait, a little bit more. While you could find Naruto and Gundam and One Piece stuff everywhere, the vast majority of anime merchandise can only be found in places like Akihabara or Maiden Road in Ikebukuro or Nanako Broadway or Denden Town in Osaka. It is by and large a subculture, mostly tucked out of the way of public view. It's not mainstream, it's subculture, and in that sense, it's very similar to how anime is in the United States.
Where to begin? Seriously, where do we begin? Because there are so many things wrong with that entire line of thinking that it's difficult to pick a starting place, because it's just so out of touch with how things are today in the real world.
Yeah, I think first off, the fact about like how DVDs and Blu-rays things, I believe that yes, the amount of people who buy anime or media in general in Japan is much smaller in the US. But that just because the amount of people that buy media is smaller doesn't mean that the amount of people watching said stuff is small.
Not only that, but the size of the audience does not necessarily dictate just how much money that industry generates. Let me quote myself and take an excerpt from this article I wrote in the first issue of Nyan the magazine. Despite media vilification, however, otaku media continued its growth up through the moe boom of the mid-2000s. A study conducted by the Hamagin Research Institute estimated the 2003 market for moe products to be worth 88.8 billion yen, roughly $742.5 million at the time of publication. The Hamagin study only factored in anime, manga, and video games, however, factoring in not only anime, manga, and video games, but also figures, character goods, and services such as maid cafes. One analyst estimated the actual growth of the moe industry at 2 trillion yen. That's trillion with a T, translating to just over 19 billion with a B dollars. So you can say it's a niche all you want, but if they're generating a lot of money, that's where the cash flow is going to go. That's where all the resources are going to go, because you have a better chance of bringing in a return on your investment.
Yes. The other thing that he doesn't realize that a lot of people also don't realize is otaku stuff was actually the one thing that kind of, like how the 90s, the economic bubble burst.
Yes.
And all those things that Japan used to be really known for in the 80s, like 70s and 80s, automotive and electronics or whatnot, those were on the decline. But otaku stuff was the only thing going up. Now, when I say otaku stuff, that, again, large gambit. That's not just, anime. That's anime, that's toys, that's video games, huge video games, comics, whatnot. In fact, that otaku market is actually what made the toy market grow and survive in Japan, because as the population was going down and you couldn't really do the type of, like how you would have the robot shows and the toys would come concurrently, and you had, but as time went on, that wasn't as possible because
That's children.
Yeah, less children, and the children that weren't there just weren't as interested in, But the otaku were interested in. In fact, two points. In fact, I could pinpoint 2 anime shows where this illustrates it nothing more perfectly. Evangelion, because Evangelion was originally conceived as that the design wise, we want to make something that we can't make designs of.
Exactly.
Even though model kits and toys did eventually come out for that, which also branched off from garage kits, of figures to, you can actually buy Asuka and Rei PVC figures.
Yep.
And now that's a whole industry on itself. The other show is Gao Gai Gar. Gao Gai Gar was released just like any other robot show with toys. Kids weren't really interested in. But Mecha Otaku watched that and was like, this is like those cool robot shows that I used to get into.
Yep.
And in fact, the rest of the show was kind of tooled to be for that. In fact, the OVA, which I don't think was as good as the series, but that's another point, Gao Gai Gar Final, was definitely for those fans. And so on. And then they were making revivals of these things from like the 70s at that time, and then also the 80s, 70s, like all those Go Nagai things.
Yep.
Because there was the otaku market there. And Gundam survived, and a whole new industry because Gunpla. So it's very short-sighted to say, there's this little thing that, when you're not looking at the bigger picture.
I think you're giving him too much credit when you're saying it's short-sighted. I honestly think that's what's going on, because at what point do we look at people in this kind of position as the answer man, who people are supposed to trust to give the
opinion leading, the leading opinion?
This isn't even opinion. Someone asked a question and then was lied to in the answer to that question. It's like I always say, one of 2 things is happening. Either he doesn't know the correct answer and is going off of inaccurate, ill-conceived notions and data,
and outdated data,
or he's deliberately lying. And both of those are equally bad, especially when for a column like Hey Answer Man.
Yeah. Now, another one that really gets to me is when he says, Again, the vast majority of anime merchandise can only be found in places like Akihabara and Made in, why don't you tell that to all those online retailers, all right? And I'm not even including the ones that sell stuff to the U.S., like J-List or How in Japan.
Hobby
Ami.
Link Japan.
Well, do they sell to Japan? I know they meant to sell, but yeah, I know that they're based in Japan. But Ami, Hobby Search, Amazon, which is a big one there. So again, you're not looking at, because to me it just seems that you're not really all that invested.
Well, no. Also, here's something I found hilarious. He says that otaku like to celebrate their passions very privately, but then goes on to list 4 examples of places where the entire district is meant to cater to otaku. So, which one is it? Either these people are really private, or businesses have set up entire districts of cities where the walls of the buildings have anime girls on them all the time, and where they sell doujinshi and anime and figures, and where they have maid cafes. Which one is it? It can't be both.
I mean, I guess from his point, it might be that they're private everywhere else, but it doesn't really seem.
That's a cop out. You can't say, they're really private with their stuff, and then go on to observe a whole bunch of otaku going out in public to a place meant to. So it's not like this isn't an anomaly. There are built up places meant to cater to these people because they do leave the house, they do go places and celebrate their passion. You can't have one thing and then the exact opposite of that thing.
Also, I don't think it would be that much of a small niche if you have these districts set up like that, because that's whole real estate, that valuable real estate, especially in Japan. Yep. Not that much space, and you're setting up these spaces just for this niche audience. That doesn't compute that to me in my.
I can, even if it was a niche, they generate a lot of money. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. And also that
three people generating $19 billion for this industry, you're going to cater to those 3 people. So either generate more money for the stuff you want, or it's gonna get run out. This is my problem, because what is lying about people accomplishing?
And here's another notion that some shows, they start off as meant for only the otaku audience, but they've been able to get outside that and sell. The Girls in Ponza movie is now the high-selling anime movie of base like that one that started from a late night TV show.
Yeah,
late night Girls in Ponza. It beat out the Monica movie.
It's the #1 disc release right now. Yes. And back when the film came out theatrically, it was #1 for how many weeks? How many weeks in a row this movie was #1?
Quite a bit.
But a niche movie doesn't get #1 like that. Unless nobody else in your country is consuming entertainment media, a niche movie doesn't get #1.
Also, I remember reading that because, I imagine it, yes, they print of Blu-rays and DVDs the amount that they believe would only sell. I remember specifically reading that they had to make that it was big news that the girls in Ponza is getting like another print at another like another re-release because the show was that popular.
Yep.
Also, again, stuff like I know that K-On! And Love Live are shown on the Disney Channel over there.
Those are both real big. Love Live is big in the U.S. now too.
Oh yeah. It even showed on the told you that Mnet channel.
Yep.
So I wish Idolmaster was a little bit known too, but that's beside the point.
No, I would enjoy that. But here's my thing. Anime News Network recorded at the tail end of 2015. Comiket 89's attendance was up to 520,000.
Yes, that's literally 500,000 people.
So let me see if you can see the irony here.
Yes.
You're portraying this fan base as a super niche when the publication you write for reported at the tail end of 2015 that 500,000 people and change attended this 3-day event based completely around people creating fan media of these shows that you're talking about.
Yeah. Cube the Third wrote, "Yeah, this is why I don't read Answer Man. I like Justin Zavakis for his Blu-ray work, but his opinions are take it or leave it for me." I will say that's the one thing I like about Justin Zavakis is whenever he writes about these technical things about like how this format works, like that's where he should write for. Not this stuff.
You know why that stuff works? Because he can't lie about that. You can't You can't lie you can't lie about the technical details of software authoring or whatnot, because someone's gonna actually call you out on that. But you can lie about the otaku community in Japan, because that lie has become so embedded in the Western fan base that nobody even questions it anymore. So I have to write 3 articles for Neon the magazine trying to desperately to dispel this rumor, because it's not the case. It's wrong. Hasn't been the case for quite a while, but people still cling to it because people like Justin Zavakis continue to spread a false impression of this fan base. When are people going to stop lying?
Yeah. Also, I remember the comments when people were responding to my comments about on Twitter about this. And they were saying about asking the random people on the street about what do you think about otaku. Remember those things?
Yeah, they don't mind.
No.
Hey, it's cool. They like anime real big. Hey, yeah, everyone's an otaku about something.
It's not 1990 anymore.
The Miyazaki murders happened in '89. Get over it.
Mm-hmm. Or the stabbings in Akiba in 2008, I think it was. It's like same thing.
How do especially the people who are supposed to be educated about this stuff get so embroiled in this media manufactured narrative, because that's what it is.
Because the
media saw, Miyazaki had all these videotapes and all these horror movies and manga and porn in his room in otaku, and now we're gonna do because we're the news media, and because we're at the point where the news has to also, we're going to spin this entire thing about how people like him are also prone to this kind of behavior.
Because they're believing the was it the news that the Japanese media has said about otaku.
Yeah, but why? Why would you do that? I thought that the whole thing with us here in the U.S. is that we're all really cynical about the news. I thought we were all really cynical and jaded about the news. Apparently not, when it serves your own fandom desires.
I think that's it. They're not
fan behaviors discouraged.
They're not reading between the lines of these things. That of course they're going to say that about otaku in Japan. You know, these people who don't fit in the designated of you know that phrase, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down.
It's like, yeah, sure, but I mean,
yeah,
certainly, but can we please look at the reality?
Oh, I know, but
I can't be the only person to have read. I can't be the only person to have read Otaku Spaces. We can't be the only people to have read the Moe Manifesto.
No, but I certainly read otaku, was it Databased Animals?
which I've also read. And you know what? I'm more willing to believe Otaku Spaces because Patrick W. Galbraith actually went and interviewed these people to pick their brains.
That's another thing. I really wish that people could actually just talk to them, talk to these otaku. I, not at the best of my ability, I try to do, you know, I can't really communicate, but I certainly can, you know, come to a common, I don't know what that was, of common interest on Pixiv.
See, here's the reason why the people don't talk to otaku. You might end up talking to a 20-year-old female housewife graphic designer, or you might end up talking to there's a really famous K1 fighter in here, so someone who beats people up for a living is in here. And oh, by the way, he also enters the ring dressed as Toho.
I've seen that. That was the guy in Taboo on the show.
So you can't actually talk to these people because you might end up with someone who doesn't fit that stereotype.
But if I talk to a otaku, that means I'm talking to a 45-year-old creepy loser who has carries his dakimakura all around and shares his milkshake with them.
Or you might talk to a 33-year-old call center employee, or let's see. This woman's a race queen. Huh. Interesting.
But then I might talk to some guy who jizzes on his toys.
Oh, wow. This is so interesting that all of these people are so diverse. It's almost like humanity in microcosm, where the majority of people are normal, but there are a minority of people who are outliers. It's almost as though these are just normal people who have a hobby, and maybe they don't really deserve to be vilified like they do. Perhaps these are just regular-ass people who just have a hobby that they do when they get home from working. Hey, this woman's a voice actress.
You mean they don't go to a shop in Akihabara, a video shop in Akihabara, and buy Junior Idol videos?
Maybe they do. Who cares?
U5 videos?
oh hey, here's Danny Chu. He runs a business. He just came here. He came there from friggin' England, and now he's making a bit. He works with the government to promote Japanese media worldwide. Huh? Interesting. It's almost as though these are just normal ass people who just have a hobby that they indulge in their spare time. And hey, look at Danny Chu. Some of them have managed to turn it into a career. So maybe it's time we stop lying and start actually telling people the truth about this. But we can't do that because we're trying to discourage certain types of fan behavior we don't like.
You mean they don't go around and stalking their favorite idols? And if they reject their presence, they go and stab them, like that recent story?
Hey, there's normal-ass people who do that to people who aren't idols. It's almost like it's humanity in microcosm. It's almost as though there are a minority of really crazy people out there who will stalk and stab people. You heard a lot about that one because she was an idol and because he was ostensibly her fan. Because there's a vested interest in getting all this real crazy stuff in here because that'll sell newspapers.
Mm-hmm. It's almost as if clickbait.
But then, here's what's harmful about it. People believe it. People internalize it in this inner narrative, saying, "Oh, this guy was obsessed with this idol," which means anyone who's into idol culture is now bad. I'd say it's a failure to process nuanced points, but then at the same time, it's getting fed into at every turn. So
people not able to process nuanced points.
You can say people can't process nuanced points, but when they're not presented with nuanced points, can you really blame them? It takes a lot of extra effort to be fed this narrative, exclusively fed this narrative, and cock your head sideways and say, "Huh? Let me see if this stands up to scrutiny. Let me see if this is actually something that's a real thing." Cube the Third brings up otaku destroying their figures when a voice actress gets a boyfriend. So now all Seiyu otaku are bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The thing with Emi Nito and the one guy. See, posting a picture, one guy destroying his figure in Love Live Blue. Right? Makes it seem like all the Love Live fans over there were doing that.
Yep. So
it's kind of like, imagine if someone over there viewed all the Sonic fan base based on like Chris Chan.
Exactly.
Spraying someone, with mace. Because Sonic's arms are blue.
Yeah, but it's like that. That's the portrayal that people have internalized, and that's only going to end when people stop lying. And that's something I'm sick and tired of.
Yeah. Yes.
People actively being lied to about what these people do and who these people are, and it's bad. That's not something good to do, because one, you're lying about people, and two, you're lying to people about other people. And I mean, it's like back in May last year, when all those otaku turned out Nakihabara to protest the presence of this racist anti-immigrant group, but no one was talking about that.
No, they rather talk about the racist guys on 2chan over
People
there.
yeah, exactly. Like people would rather write articles said, "Hey, we found a whole bunch of posts on 2chan in this random ass blog, so I'll talk to a right wing racist fascist now."
All the internet is the random board on 4chan.
That's another thing. It's like the idea that the concept that 4chan represents anything but 4chan.
Exactly. Yeah.
2chan represents anything but 2chan. But that's my problem. I can't even pin it to people not accepting nuanced points, because at the same time, people are just actively being lied to, and they're only being told lies.
But I mean, that lovely that lovely news story of like destroy, attack, die.
Yeah, and that's the exact same thing. That's a reflection of exact what the Japanese news media did to Otaku when the Miyazaki murders happened, or when the that other guy who tried to portray himself as the second coming of Miyazaki happened. Because one journalist speculated that guy was a figure collector. Also, turns out, he wasn't a figure collector. Go figure. But one journalist said, this guy might have collected figures, and an entire media firestorm erupted. And by the time people discovered that, this guy actually didn't collect figures, he was just fucking crazy, the damage was done.
Yeah, you ever hear the one about the
stopped by the police?
You ever hear about the guy that killed his mother because of Evangelion?
I believe I've heard about that. But you know what? He didn't kill her because of Evangelion. Killed her because what enrages me about that entire mindset. It implies that we're all just the wrong episode of Evangelion away from killing someone. Mental illness is a thing. Mentally healthy people don't kill people. It doesn't happen. Normal ass people don't go out and shoot, stab, try to harm other people. You understand the capacity for harm that each and every one of us has that we don't do because it's wrong and we know it's wrong? Mentally ill people don't have that. So they go and do wrong stuff. But then the news media tries to rationalize it. Oh, he collected horror movies and porn. Oh, he collected figures. Oh, he watched Evangelion. When in reality, no, they're just fucking crazy. But that doesn't sell magazines and newspapers and ratings on your TV and shit.
Well, yeah, it's always the moral panic.
I don't even want to dwell on the news media, because what it comes down to for me is people who we're supposed to trust as educated in the Western fan base straight up lying. So once again, I thought that the zeitgeist in the West was question the news media, because we've been burned so many times by the news media. The whole, when Fox News was ripping on Mass Effect, telling a whole bunch of straight up lies about all this sex happening in Mass Effect, is still very fresh in my mind. and we lashed out against that, but we accept what we accept what the Japanese news media says 100%. That doesn't compute to me. That doesn't make sense, especially when the mantra is question the news media, because they're not always out to tell you the 100% truth. But now we have to question the fandom news media, because they're not telling the 100% truth. They're not even telling 50% truth. A lot of times they're straight up lying.
So it's almost like the chain of the fandom news believes the lies of regular news, and thus the cycle goes, and then the people believe that because fans never lie.
Right, and Zeke clarifies it's just the big news is the zeitgeist. Foreign and web-based news slips under people's suspicions for whatever reason, which is stupid. Web-based publications can basically print whatever they want and portray it as the truth. Foreign publications, I kind of understand. I remember Al Jazeera was really big among people for a while, but my point is, the news media isn't the problem. The fandom news media, or the fandom leaders, people who are high up in a position where they should take on a responsibility to tell people how it really is, aren't telling people how it really is. Moreover, they're straight up lying to people. And let's stop that and tell the truth. But at the same time, if you tell the truth, then it doesn't discourage the fandom behavior that you dislike.
Well, because
I would like to separate their dislike of that particular kind of fandom behavior from them, lying to people. But it's hard to ignore, one, when they express such disdain for people who engage in kinds of fandom behavior they dislike, and two, when it's really coincidental that this is what they lie about when that kind of fandom behavior is what they dislike.
And also about how if because of otaku, are into quote unquote degenerate material, but they said the same thing about metal music and violent video games and all that. So what separates that, because some otaku are into lolicon or whatnot.
It's really hard to separate. Really hard to separate, because it's way too convenient that this is what these people lie about. Way too convenient.
Yeah, because they certainly talk about, you shouldn't judge people by what they, but then turn around and find out that they're into
but it's
whatever.
We've seen people in similar positions say one thing but do another before. We've seen people go on this thing about, why are the Moe fans attacking Fujoshi it's just a simple commercial. While the Moe fans are talking to Fujoshi, but when the free announcement happens, they're laughing at otaku because for some reason they think that because they see two people express disappointment about Kiwani made a Fujoshi pandering show. They saw two people say something along those lines and say, haha, Moe fans, take that.
Two people represents 2,000, right?
When a couple months ago, when that commercial happened, their narrative, their paradigm was, oh, why can't we all just get along? Why can't we stop drawing these lines in the sand over who likes what anime and whatnot? Which I was also saying at the same time, but the difference is, a couple months later, when it was the Moe fans under attack, I was defending the Moe fans because they were wrongly under attack. So we're used to these people saying one thing and doing another, but right now they're just straight up lying to people. And I'd like to know why people who we're supposed to trust to have the answers to our questions are lying to people when they're answering those questions.
I think it's half and half. I think there is some lying, and the other half is just not knowing the full scope of.
Well, if you don't know, then you shouldn't be in that position. If you don't know the answer to the question, why are you trying to answer the question?
Maybe because they think they know, or that is a good question, actually.
Here's another Anubis adage I always say. Consider that you might suck, which means constantly be questioning your own ability and go into something not believing you know everything, but you go into it from a frame of, okay, I might not be as good at this as I think I am, so I'm just gonna on my own endeavor to become as good as I possibly can be at it. Constantly reevaluating my skill level, constantly trying to understand more, constantly questioning what I know, because that's how you grow. But I have a hard time believing that someone in that position wouldn't do that. But to be fair, that might just be solipsism on my part because I do that, and because I believe that's something that everyone should do. It's like when I was on the Baka Gaijin show, and I was talking to Jekyll Geek and all them about how I believe that someone should take it upon themselves to become as articulate as they can, simply by virtue of the fact that they're doing something that requires being articulate. It's the same principle as when you're in a position where your responsibility is to answer questions.
But if you keep getting people who are answering those questions, then you view yourself, oh, I'm important. People look up to my opinion,
But which is
thus makes you think that you're good at your job.
That's a fair assessment, and I would 100% understand if someone gets that mindset because of that kind of reinforcement. But what I'm saying is, even so, even if you constantly get that kind of positive reinforcement, it still should be looked upon as part of your duty to constantly be reevaluating, okay, what do I know? What can I learn? And especially in such a evolving climate as the anime fandom, there's new material coming out all the time. There are new paradigms coming out in the fandom all the time. So you need to be up on that in order to answer people's questions in a modern sense. This could have been the answer back in 1989 on the tail end of the Miyazaki murders happening, but it's not the answer in 2016, and I'm wondering where people get the idea that this is the answer in 2016 when we have books like Otaku Spaces out here, when we have books like the Moe Manifesto out there, when we got people in the fandom writing 3-part articles out here disproving this entire mindset.
Well, look what happened. Yeah, but look what happened when they did a review of the Moe Manifesto. You saw how that turned out.
Yeah, they didn't talk about it. They talked about this might have been 3 paragraphs long, where they actually talked about the synthetic relationships thing, which ended up being the bulk of the discussion in that thread. So they don't want to talk about it.
That's it. They don't want to talk about it.
And hey, if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But it's your job. If your job is to provide answers, then it would behoove you to provide the correct answers, number one. It would behoove you to engage in an intellectually honest discussion about what you're trying to provide answers on. But they don't want to do that and the only reason I'm left to wonder why they don't want to do that is because that runs the risk of not really encouraging but not discouraging fan behavior that they find repulsive. And that's the only logic I see in that. It's bad. It's a toxic way to cultivate the fandom on your end, but that's the only logic I see in that. It's the only way I can possibly rationalize them lying to so many people so often about the same thing, not engaging with like this is what gets me. You'll see people talk about stuff like "Welcome to the NHK" or "Resentiment" or all this really negative media portrayals of otaku as realistic.
Or Watamote is a recent.
Or Watamote to a certain extent. But you'll see them portray that as realistic when there's no more evidence of that being a realistic portrayal than there is of Genshiken being a realistic portrayal. They're both fictional. But they look at the cynical and the negative portrayals as realistic because that feeds into their preconceived notions of what otakus do. But when presented with stuff like Ori-emo or Comic Party or Genshiken, which celebrates this media, that's idealistic. When really they're both fictional. One is just negative, and you resonate with negativity, so you go with that.
Yeah. Real life isn't one or the other; it's a mixture of both. You know, there's idealistic motions and negative.
Well, I mean, hey, consider that maybe some of the idealistic portrayals might be more realistic. Consider that maybe Welcome to the NHK is really over the top. Consider that maybe Resentiment is really over the top in its negativity. Consider that it's not just positivity and idealism that are over the top. Consider that perhaps, just perhaps, the negative stuff might not be a realistic portrayal of the world. But you get some people who resonate with negativity. And that's what they see.
It's like that thing that you told me about, the thing about wrecking a person's viewpoint of a show by like wrecking their passion for a show by telling them everything that's wrong with it, and then they start to believe that.
Oh yeah, I did an article on
because cynical people have to have other cynical people to be around. They can't just, they have to like spread their cynicism. as a form of gospel.
justify their cynical worldview via more cynicism. That's why they flock to a whole lot of cynical media, because it justifies their own ill-conceived cynicism.
But look how wise I am by how cynical I am. You know,
that plays into it too.
Yeah. I'm more. I have more wisdom because I've lived this harsh life of you know.
I've lived this harsh life of a whole lot of anime coming out that I don't like.
Too many moe cat girls. It's making me depressed.
That's it though. It's that kind of thing where, and like even when I did that ESK article, the commentary, like I was following some of the commentary on other sites about that particular article, and obviously they didn't really read the article, because they were saying stuff that I was arguing against in the article. It was like, that the main character of that comic just needs thicker skin. I'm like, yeah, okay, good for you. You picked the easy way out. But if we talk about this a bit more, maybe we can get a discussion out of this. But no, they want to pick the easy portrayal, pick the easy way out, because they don't want to shatter their preconceived notions that maybe, just maybe, coming out and shitting all over a show does affect people who love that show. Maybe, just maybe. And call me whatever you want when saying this, maybe, just maybe, people should think about the way they say things before saying them. Even because it's real easy to just say, don't take things so personally, get thicker skin and whatnot. That's easy to say, but at the same time, why not just think about what you're saying, about what you're saying to people and how you're saying it.
Exactly. I think we'll leave it at that, because I think we made the strong points of this argument of what I was trying to say. Anything else?
Stop lying, please.
But I believe my own lies.
Just stop lying. Stop lying, or stop answering people's questions, because people don't like to be lied to.
But otaku are creepy perverts who carry their hugging pillows and have no social skills. My thing is, so what of it? My thing is,
if you asked me 3-4 years ago, my thing would have been what of it. But at this point, my thing is, that's not true.
Well, that as well, yeah.
Everyone needs to read Otaku Spaces, because you're being lied to, and this is infinitely closer to the truth than what we just read in the Answer Man thing. All right, and yeah, I'm gonna big up myself right now. Everyone needs to read the first 3 issues of Nyan the magazine, because I'm gonna wager it's closer to the truth than what we just read.
But I like my narrative better. You know, because I trust.
I mean, like, here's another thing. Can we stop with the narratives? I know, I understand. I know what the answer is. It's no, because people don't like to think. But can we get with this program that not everything is this written out storybook of, hey, this happens, then this happens, then this happens? Can we understand that maybe it's a good thing maybe it's a good thing for people to do, to explore, to question things.
I say I just think most people are really lazy.
I can't. And this again, this might be solipsism on my part, but I can't believe someone who would take up that role would be that lazy. It's certainly possible. I don't want to get into that sort of mindset that they're just lazy, because then that's sort of giving them an out, sort of giving them a cop out. It's like, oh, okay, you're just being lazy.
Well, how many Answermans have there been? 3 or 4?
It was Zach. It was Brian was the second one, I think.
Yeah.
I think Justin is the third one now.
All right. So it's basically, I see it as a sort of, well, if I don't answer it, nobody else will. So I guess I'm going to have to answer it, even if I give a bullshit answer, because nobody else will on this, my thing is find people who actually know what the answer is.
But they're not gonna, because they just think that that's the answer, and that's what's ultimately so bad about it is these people are gonna lie to people. They're gonna lie to less experienced fans, and because these people are in the positions that they're in, the less experienced fans that they lie to, I want to make it clear, it's a lie. It's not true. This isn't what otaku is. This isn't who otaku are. Being lied to, and then they go on and they internalize this narrative, because this is something I've been hearing from people for at least a decade now. Don't call yourself an otaku. It's an insult in Japan. It's a bad thing to be. People hate otaku. They discriminate against them. And at some point, I must have sat down in my chair and was like, I'm gonna look into that. But most people don't do that, and I can't really blame them for not doing that, because that's just my weird ass brain questioning things that I was told.
I think the other thing. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, but where the solution lies is for the people whose responsibility it is to train up these new fans to stop lying. But that ain't happening. Go ahead.
I think that's it. The notion by these fans to also be like, don't be too obsessed. Well, it's you could be a fan, but don't be too obsessed.
Hey, I'm gonna pull out another quote from Beyond the Magazine. This is from the 3rd issue. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
Okay, bingo. Yes. Too much enthusiasm is dismissed as obsession, especially when that enthusiasm is directed at something not deemed acceptable. The question of how much is too much is, of course, arbitrary, leading to many fans hiding their interest in anime when in public, quote-unquote hiding their power level. To walk around Akihabara and unashamedly shop for anime paraphernalia, potentially of erotic nature, is alien to many fans in the West. Such an unabashed display of one's obsession, quote-unquote, with cartoons and cartoon characters is weird. Weird people, weird things, and weird concepts are remarkably easy to ridicule and vilify.
Right, yeah.
And hey, Cubey the Third brings, what's the problem with being too obsessed? It's arbitrary. This is the point I was just trying to make with that article. Let's get away from the word obsession. Start using the word passion. The obsession is one of those words that I don't like, because it's used for its connotation and not its meaning.
You like this thing too much. Yeah, that's another thing. Stop talking about this thing too much. You like this thing too much. It's like
The exact thing, VZ. It's say, okay, you can say I'm passionate about Virtual Lawn. You can also say I'm obsessed with Virtual Lawn. They mean the same thing but have a different connotation. And when someone's trying to portray me as doing a negative activity, they're going to say I'm obsessed. But when they're trying to portray that as more neutral or more positive, they're going to say passionate. They mean the same thing, but one is used negatively. Just like you can say, oh, that anime appeals to this or that demographic. That anime panders to this or that demographic. Same meaning, different connotations. One is used exclusively when you're trying to portray something as negative. You can replace these words and the meaning will not change, but the connotation will. So we can talk about people being obsessed. I'd rather talk about people being passionate, because you color the discussion when you talk about obsessed people. But when you talk about passionate people, then you can have a deeper conversation. So when you're not preoccupied with portraying a group of people as bad, you can have a conversation about those people. If all you want to do is down on a group of people, those people are bad. If you call yourself an otaku in Japan, you will be ridiculed. Don't call yourself an otaku. It's an insult. If that's what we're so focused on, we can never, ever have an honest discussion about otaku. But that's what we fixate on. We fixate on the Miyazaki murders. We fixate on the guy who tried to imitate Miyazaki. We fixate on all these negative portrayals. We fixate on the people who go out and assault idols because they're obsessed. Really, the answer is that they're crazy. But we say they're obsessed because we acknowledge that they have a passion.
Yeah, obsession and craziness are not the same thing.
They're not the same thing, but when we want to acknowledge that someone has a passion but portray that as bad, it's an obsession. What we don't acknowledge is also Taro. You know him?
Yes.
Yeah. Current deputy prime minister, I believe. I'll look that up,
but not the prime minister.
But he was the prime minister.
Yeah. The one that liked Rosen Maiden.
Part of his platform was that, hey, I'm an otaku. I like all this manga and stuff. I think that our pop culture and our entertainment media can be a powerful tool for bridging the gap between our nation and other nations. And he won on that platform. So don't try and tell me that calling yourself an otaku is an insult when some guy got voted as the prime minister of fucking Japan based on that platform. These are two things that don't exist, that can't exist in the same space. Either it's a grave insult to call yourself an otaku and people will ridicule and vilify and marginalize you because of it, or you get to be prime minister of Japan and call yourself an otaku. One of those two things happens, but not both at the same time. And you know the crazy thing about this? So I explain this to people, and they still try and push that narrative. They try and dodge that shit like Macross 7. And to a certain extent, I have to think, is is this paradigm, this otaku is bad paradigm, just so pervasive that it drills itself into people's skulls like that? Because the people out there are just drilling it into people. Like that's, if you asked me 15 years ago, I would have agreed with that. I don't know about 15, but if you asked me a decade and change ago, I would have said, oh, hey, maybe otaku is a bad thing. Because it's drilled into people. Everywhere you go in the anime fandom, people say, okay, don't call yourself, maybe you can call yourself an otaku here. That was always up in the air. But the thing was, if you ever go to Japan, don't call yourself an otaku. It's an insult there. And I found out that wasn't true. And I tried to tell people, and people are still resistant. I not only did I find out it wasn't true, I found out where the source is. So now I'm sitting here, hey, I found where all this stuff is coming from. Let's nip this in the bud. But it's so ingrained in people that even when I say this entire hysteria surrounding otaku is a fabrication of the Japanese news media. Even when I say that this man achieved the highest position in the Japanese government on the platform that he was an otaku. Even when I post the article about otaku protesting racism, even when I post the article where I looked at the video about dude asking people on the street, oh, hey, what do you think about otaku? And they were fine with it. Even when I do all that, they shift into fighter mode and dodge those missiles. So I think the first step is to create an environment where people look and say, okay, maybe this isn't quite as true as people are trying to portray it. The first step is to just let it be known. Just spread it far and wide. Listen, you're being lied to. This stuff is closer to the truth. That's the first step. Then maybe we can start trying to hold people to task for lying to an entire fandom.
But the thing is, where can people find the truth besides those books that you mentioned?
That's the whole thing. People got to be out there spreading the truth. This is something you, me, and K-Gods have been on since day one. People get out there and talk about this stuff. Get out there and challenge these mindsets. What have we all been on since before 2011 about the Moe fandom? Moe fans aren't all like how you think they are, and people need to go out and challenge these notions about Moe fans. It's the same exact thing. People need to go out and challenge the dominant paradigm about otaku, because they're not gonna do that on their own. Siegfried just said it. People just accept whatever they're told as the truth. They don't search for it, and they're not gonna search for it. And we really shouldn't expect them to be searching for it, because they were fed a narrative by someone who they thought was telling them the truth. It's not their fault they were lied to, but we can tell them they were lied to and give them resources that are closer to the truth.
Yeah.
I'm in I'm in the business of solving problems. Those 3 articles that I spread out among 3 issues of Neon the magazine is trying to solve a problem. The problem is people are being lied to, and they don't know they're being lied to. And they really have no way of knowing they're being lied to, because the people who lied to them are people that they ostensibly should trust. So what people who understand what is truer need to do is say, hey, number 1, you were lied to. Number 2, here's something that's closer to the truth. Zeke Freak is saying, hey, it's like telling people Soylent Green is people, made of people, and they're like, I like thinking it isn't better. They don't change their behavior. What I'm saying is, the other side of the story needs to be out there, and it needs to be out there more so than the lies. So, how much have you heard about database animals versus how much you've heard of otaku spaces? Because it's disproportionate in my experience, heavily favoring database animals, because it has a certain writing style, covers certain topics, and has a certain outlook. But that's how we solve this problem. Spread the truth out there, because people out here being lied to.
Yeah. I have to say, I thought I would be the passionate one, but you definitely got even more passionate than me this episode.
Because, I mean, again, this is something we've all been on since day one. Since day one, we've been out here against people lying to people about other people. It was the Moe fandom a few years back. Right now, it's otaku. We don't know who's going to be next, but I'm not going to sit by and when I know people are being lied to about other groups of people, I'm not going to sit by and let that occur in my own fandom. This is something I love. This is something that, to a certain extent, I'm making a career out of. So I would like the correct information to be out there. And I'm going to take steps to solve that, because this is something I care about. This is something we all care about. That's why we do this podcast. We care about having a real discussion about this stuff. This is why the unofficial tagline of NTR Radio is the realest anime podcast on the internet. We're not going to lie to you about otaku. We're not going to lie to you about Moe fans. We're not going to lie to you to feed into a personal narrative based on what kind of fandom behavior we want to see or what we don't see. I don't care what kind of anime fans are out there or what they like. The problem is, people out here lying about otaku do care. Because if you portray that kind of fandom behavior as something neutral or positive, then you run the risk of people adopting that kind of fandom behavior. You run the risk of more people becoming those kinds of fans if you don't portray it as negative.
Exactly. And also, it doesn't make people explore and find out, hey, I may actually like this thing that was so vilified. or
Exactly.
kept away from me. It's like, oh, because I actually used to be kind of afraid of, not afraid, but ambivalent towards Lolicon also. But then slowly, I looked at stuff and was like, oh, I like this stuff. I'm starting to like this stuff too. I mean, I always liked cute anime girls and such, but it kind of, I guess, the first time seeing Lolicon material might be shocking, but then you slowly get in less
Yeah,
shocking.
plenty of people were like that about Lolicon. And it
Yeah.
to certain groups of fans, it's if you don't vilify Kodomo no Jikan, then more people might like it, and then more people it might validate it. We can't have people liking stuff we think is degenerate, because we might end up with more of that kind of media, and we don't want that. We
I
have to
think
vilify and demonize.
it's again, I think what they're so afraid of is what they've already become, in a way. If stay with me on this one.
Yeah.
They're so afraid of the mainstream media finding out about this stuff and then reporting about the dark side of anime, and getting the wrong narrative about anime and manga, that they themselves, the fan news sites, do lies and saying you have to stay away from this stuff because you have to not release this stuff because it's bad. Otherwise, mainstream people are not gonna get it. So basically, we're gonna lie so that way we catch before the media, believes a lie. If that makes sense, spreads a lie.
It makes sense, but I don't think it's something to be worried about, and here's why. The anime fandom is a whole lot bigger than a lot of people give it credit for.
I think that too.
Like, it's not something you can think. It's something that is or is not. San Diego Comic-Con reaches capacity around 130,000 attendees. And every time it goes on, all the news media is all, oh, San Diego Comic-Con, oh, look at all these cosplayers, look at all the film stuff that's being announced. When Anime Expo in 2015 it hit 90,500 and stands poised to break 100,000 in 2016 by projections I've made. But you don't hear about Anime Expo in the news media, do you? Here's the thing about the anime fandom. I call it the holy grail of fringe interests because it's grown massive, without having to sacrifice the things that make it unique. It's grown huge without that kind of big mainstream media attention that other fandoms get.
I think, kind of like how, like look what happened to the comic book fandom.
Yep.
Where that's been kind of overtaken by mainstream. But what else would be taken? Maybe Western cartoons.
Any video gaming.
Yeah, a video game too. Well, we also know like how Hollywood's trying, always fails, but they're trying to mine anime to make stuff. That's why we got that Ghost in the Shell movie.
Zeke Freak in the IRC has 2 points. First of all, 100,000 isn't much of a population, isn't a lot of people population-wise. And second, you have to account for gate crashers and people going to anime cons for things that are blatantly not anime. Both of those things are true, but neither is my point. My point is, how does San Diego Comic-Con have a 100 30,000 attendees and get a whole lot of media attention. But Anime Expo has 90,000 attendees, which isn't a whole lot less than 130,000, and gets no media attention.
We also know
it's not a matter of how many people are there for anime. It's a matter of San Diego Comic-Con versus the largest anime event in the United States, in North America, almost reaching San Diego Comic-Con.
Well, also we know that
gets all this attention and AX gets none.
Also,
happen without anime being that sort of thing that can get really big without getting all that kind of media attention.
Well, also the difference is San Diego Comic-Con and New York Comic-Con, those are industry cons that are run by the big companies whereas Anime Expo is run by, there's anime companies there, but it's not the big it's not the big company. So which one is going to get more media exposure? The one that's owned by the media corporations or the one that's owned by smaller companies and fans?
Okay, to a certain extent, yeah. But you also see a whole lot of other Comic Cons, like Emerald City Comic Con, New York Comic Con. You mentioned all these other Comic Cons. Some industry, some not. They get a whole lot of attention a whole lot more attention than any anime convention. I don't know where Emerald City Comic Con is, but I know it's a con.
That sounds like that's probably Kansas.
I wouldn't know.
Emerald City, Kansas.
I don't know where the Emerald City is. I don't know what is referred to as the Emerald City. The whole rest of the United States might as well be Emerald City Comic Con because I don't know, but I know it exists. There's a whole bunch of cons I know exist, but you go up to any random geek culture person and ask, where does AAC take place? Another anime convention take place. Where does UConn at UConn? Well, that's easy because that's in the name. But that's what I'm saying. Where does Otaku-thon take place? Also noting that Otaku-thon is one of the top 10 largest anime conventions in North America. And they're not gonna be able to tell you because anime conventions haven't had that sort of thing. Freaking the IRC. My incredibly cynical guess is news networks expect people at large to know what a comic is, but don't want to explain a super hard to pronounce foreign word like anime. And hey, that's part of it. That might entirely be part of it. And again, that true, but not my point. My point is, anime is the holy grail of fringe interests, where it grows huge, massive. I had another statistic in this article I had, and I closed the article because I'm an idiot. But something like, give me a second, let me pull this up because I don't want to misquote it. But what I'm saying is, they don't have anything to worry about. They're worried, if that's the case, VZ, they're worried about nothing because anime's grown this big without getting that kind of media attention. Like compared to comic book sales, the comic books industry gets a whole lot of media attention that doesn't get afforded to the anime industry. And I'm not talking about comic book movies, I'm talking about comic books. news outlets covered that Captain America thing?
Yeah. The stupid
Where he's a Hydra agent now?
Yeah.
How many culture news outlets covered that compared to how many issues of that particular comic book sold?
Yeah. Well, we know for the most part only comic book fans buy comic books.
No.
I love the memes that thing generated, by the way.
Okay. Crunchyroll at the tail end of 2014, 400,000 paid subscribers. Crunchyroll in October 2015, 700,000 paid subscribers, 10 million plus registered users. Whole lot of people into this anime thing. But no fear of negative media attention. Yeah, Siegfried reinforces. People like to act like comic books are huge, but the truth is comic book properties are huge.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, comic book IP is big, just not comic books.
But regardless, you saw how many news outlets there were about Captain America. Oh, he's a Hydra agent now. I'm pretty sure. Wasn't there one in the New York Times?
Oh, I don't know.
I remember reading in one of those big outlets
Mm.
something that happened on comic books, which how many people actually bought, compared to how many people are watching anime on the daily now, but nobody's reporting on that. Cube the Third in the RSC. Crunchyroll beat out the NFL app as far as top services go. Let me repeat that again just to emphasize. Crunchyroll, the service that people use to watch Japanese cartoons, beat out the National Football League app. Siegfried says, I'm pretty sure you need a cable subscription for the NFL app to work. Regardless, it's the NFL. People are gonna come out for the NFL. Trust me on that. People are real passionate about the NFL. But somehow the Crunchyroll app beat it out. But we don't get that kind of media attention. So they have nothing to be afraid of, which is why my belief is that they're just trying to discourage fandom behavior they dislike.
I think that could be it too. But like again, I think it's more just the fear of their stuff being taken away also.
Who's taking the stuff?
Like I said, if they think that like Lolicon or whatnot is in the open, then it's going to be banned here. You know, that hasn't happened and it's not going to happen.
I mean,
we live in the land of the free.
I mean, here's my thing. Y'all know the reason I won't support Kickstarter anymore is because of the tentacle bento thing. But I'm gonna go and check right now, and if the Kodomo no G-Con Kickstarter is still up, then that entire argument has a huge problem.
I think it's still up.
I can confirm that in a couple seconds once this loads. Because here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff we can say, but I can center click and open this Kickstarter in a new tab and see that once it loads, been canceled by Kickstarter. So we can say and we can speculate, but when you can
wait, it got canceled?
No, I'm saying it's not canceled.
Oh.
I'm saying that we can we can say all this stuff and we can speculate. Maybe they're trying to protect the medium from outside scrutiny, when in reality there's no evidence of outside scrutiny, and even the stuff they might claim would attract outside scrutiny is not attracting outside scrutiny. So it's a valid thing to speculate on, but when you look at the facts, it doesn't add up. And nothing else adds up to me but the intersection between them being really disdainful of certain fandom behavior, that fandom behavior being associated with otaku, and them lying about otaku, portraying them as a negative due to their fandom behavior. Nothing adds up to me but that. If someone can come up with a convincing argument, I am all ears, 100%. I don't like believing that people are acting maliciously. I don't like that. But when I'm presented with no other choice, I have to believe that, and I'm upset about that because I don't like knowing that people are acting maliciously for no reason.
Z-Freak says, I totally get the fear of old white people in Congress not understanding your fetishes. Yes.
But he continues, but there's little evidence, so little evidence, of our government outright banning media. Every single time this comes up, they always rule in favor of free media. So hey, it's a valid thing to be afraid of, but I don't think there's no evidence that it'll happen. There's no evidence that it is happening. There's no evidence that it has happened.
You know what?
Japan did something about this stuff before we did. And we're supposed to be the more puritanical society. Riddle me that. Somehow the youth health bill or whatever the hell it was passed over in Japan, but we never did anything about anything like Negima or any of that stuff. All we did was put that stuff in shrink wrap. Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
Isn't it hilarious that there will be a huge uproar between about this kind of stuff in its country of origin, but when we import it over here, localize it, translate it, put it on shelves, all we do is shrink wrap it. And these people are afraid that that anime is gonna be taken away because of a few titles that they personally find distasteful. There's no evidence for that. There's no evidence for that kind of stuff attracting any ire from people who would be inclined to ban it or whatnot. But their basis is they don't like it. They find it disgusting. So they can't let it become public because maybe other people will not like it, and will find it disgusting.
Yeah, I think I think we'll leave it at that because I think we said what can you say. Although I think you know what you should do.
So,
one last thing, you should write in a question to Answer Man.
Why? Wait, hang on. I had started bringing this up, and oh wait, okay, I can't do it anymore. So yeah, write it. I'll write it. Maybe I should write into Answer Man, and the only question will be, why the fuck you lying?
Say, why do you say there's only 10,000 when you know 100,000 fans when you know that at least 500,000 people show up to Comic-Con.
There's only 100,000. When you know your own publication put out a news article at the tail end of last year saying 500,000 people went to this event. At that point, I can't believe in my mind that you don't know that.
You know, and again, you're only counting like sales of Blu-rays, but you're not counting all the other stuff that sells.
Figures, character goods, soundtracks, maid cafes, all that.
Video games based on this stuff.
What was that? 2003, I said? $19 billion?
It's probably grown since then.
You can't brush that market under the rug. VZ, if I put $19 billion on the table, would you pretend it's not there? I can't pretend $19 billion isn't on the table. When the figure's in the billions, when the figure's in the millions, you can't ignore that market. There's a reason that the anime industry caters to this demographic so often.
Open up the first 19 billion. You can open up the first air service where it's all run by maids.
$19 billion. I don't want to speculate, but I'm pretty sure that's enough to at least start your own space program.
Your first make your first mecha.
It's like,
I'll start my own animation company. There you go.
Yeah, I'll make She's Lost Control Media into an anime studio.
We'll make the shows we want to see.
Make Stella Women's Academy 2. That's my point. Stop lying. Please. Because sooner or later, everyone's going to find out. Sooner or later, people like us are going to come out here and like, hey, y'all being lied to. And sooner or later, they're going to actually believe us. So... I
think the other thing is that these people that write these things don't seem to realize that we could look at your previous comments of what you said, and
I don't even think they're worried about that. I don't even think that really matters that much, because they know we can look through their comment history. They don't care about that. They're consistent in this narrative. And if Buck Average Anime Fan who hasn't begun to question that paradigm looks into their past, they will see that they've been consistent with this narrative, and they don't know any better. Which is why it's important for people who've read stuff like Neon the Magazine, like Otaku Spaces, like the Moya Manifesto, to kind of pop their heads and say, hey, there's another side of the story. You're being lied to.
Oh, Zeke Freak says, one last thing. Zeke Freak says, Japan is so afraid of being made fun of during the Olympics or some shit. It's like, haha, you have porn. Stop mocking me.
And honestly, I think the big problem, the problem isn't that Japan is afraid of being made fun of. The big problem is that other nations will use social pressure against Japan to try and bring them in line with their own subjective outlook.
I think it's they're more afraid of what the other nations think of them rather than they themselves, because they really couldn't care less about, you know.
They don't give a fuck. They've never given a fuck. Japan's a country that's like built on not giving a fuck. They take what works for them from other nations and then do their own thing with it. Hell, like that's part of how anime came around when Japanese animators went over, looked at Disney, and said, "Hey, this is cool. Let's do our own thing with it." And now we have all this.
Okay, I think we're gonna stop here because
this has been. We are closer to 2 hours than we are to 1 hour. Let's put it that way.
Right. If anything develops on that, I'll let you know.
Yeah, and in the meantime, the call to action is everyone needs to tell people they're being lied to about this otaku thing, because
write to him. Tell him.
I don't even care about writing to Justin or not. The step one is just telling. It wouldn't hurt, but it would be more effective and more proactive to let the fandom know you are being lied to by people. Here are some things that are closer to the truth. Because here's what happens then. When people start to further internalize the realistic outlook on what's going on with things, they're going to resent being lied to, just like I resent being lied to. They're going to turn around to the people who lied at them and say, "Hey, what's going on? Why are you lying to me? I trusted you to give me a proper answer, an accurate answer to my question. And you lied to me. Explain yourself." That's how you do things. We can write to people who are up on high lying to people, but the thing about it is they're still in their positions. People still believe them. The idea is spread the idea that it's wrong to, number one, that people are being lied to, and number one, that it's wrong. And then once that permeates, the foundation of the people up lying to people is just gonna come tumbling down.
Okay.
So that's the show.
Yeah.
The email address is ntrradio@gmail.com. The website is she'slostcontrol.ntrradio or she'slostcontrol.net/podcast. They actually lead to different places now. So she'slostcontrol.ntrradio. Okay, let me bring up the soundboard again because I need to give myself one of these. Okay, so here's the dealio. she'slostcontrol.net/NTR Radio will bring you to the NTR Radio category of the NTR Radio network, which is where all the podcasts are going to go. It's where all the episodes of Otaku Midnight, all the MP3 episodes of the Baki Gaijin show, if they even produce those, I don't know. Because we also have the remastered version of Otaku Midnight's interview with the people from Project H on Kodomo no Jikan. So go listen to that because that's really good.
Yeah, I'd listen to it
Gaijin show because that's really good. Check out Nyan the magazine because you know what? It's closer to the truth than you're gonna find out on ANN when talking about.
With my drawings on the cover.
VZ does the cover. It's amazing. Check out Check out Yashike.moe. That's a lot closer than the truth than you're going to get on A&N with regards to otaku.
Check out my blog.
Yeah.
And check out Pixiv too. See awesome shit there.
VZMK2 moemekigatai.wordpress.com. Check out VZ on Pixiv. And that's the show. I'm Tommy Force Anubis.
I am VZ Mark II.
K-Guys is having computer problems, and even though we get lied to every time we say it, this is NTR Radio.